"You don't touch the flag," the tomb guard stated in a low voice that sliced like a dagger through the chaos of the airport. The manager's palm hovered above the stars and stripes on the casket, and travelers paused, phones lowered. The crowd saw it as just another inconvenience in a crowded terminal, a delay. No one crossed the border, according to Sergeant Samuel Harper, not for convenience or timetables. The promise that drove Harper's stand was forged in blood under a desert sky, but neither the manager nor the bystanders understood this, and his life had been saved by the soldier in that casket. The true shock, however, appeared on the horizon, and it bore the stripes of a general who was already en route to make amends. Before we continue this amazing story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and tell us in the comments sections from where in the world you are watching this. It will help us a lot. Travelers swarm the gates of the international airport in the center of Washington, D.C., while announcements blare overhead. One man remained still. The tomb guard of Arlington's unidentified soldier, Sergeant Samuel Harper, wore his uniform like a pledge, with the tomb guard's badge shining on his chest, white gloves and immaculate shoes that were polished to a mirror brilliance. Although his eyes were focused and his demeanor was serene, there was a weight pressing against his heart beneath the black and scarlet of his costume. He was tasked with escorting a fallen brother home today, not at the tomb, but here in the midst of pandemonium. Just 25-year-old Private First Class Daniel Walsh had promised Sam, told him stories of home, and laughed under the stars of the desert. "If I don't make it, bring me home right." That pledge came true 3 days ago. Danny was slain in the Middle East while on a covert mission. Sam refused to let him down as his flag-draped coffin now awaited him on the tarmac. He did everything he did today in memory of Danny, the baseball-loving child who dreamed of flying airplanes and who lost his life defending his team. Margaret Walsh, known to her friends as Maggie, was standing across the terminal with her granddaughter Emma. Maggie, who was 70 years old, had the wrinkles of a military nurse who had witnessed too many conflicts, from Vietnam to the present. Her pride and light came from her son Danny. Holding Emma's tiny hand, she waited to say goodbye. Emma, 10 years old, gazed up wide-eyed. With a gentle yet sharp tone, she said, "Grandma, is that Danny's plane?" Maggie nodded, but her throat was too constricted to talk. She had sent both her kid and her husband to war. She was here now to take him home. However, not everyone realized how serious this moment was. James Thornton, the airport's operations manager, was sitting in an office with a view of the terminal, staring at his tablet while his fingers drummed impatiently. He was obsessed with and proud of his 98% on-time departure percentage. Digital screens monitored flights, gates, and delays, and the walls were adorned with framed plaques of efficiency honors. Passing through the main concourse in a military procession, there was no way he could afford that disturbance. "We can't have this," he said to Sarah, his helper. "Why wasn't I told earlier? The service corridors are there for a reason. Get it rerouted." Sarah cleared her throat. Thornton's jaw tensed as he said, "Sir, the airport director approved the main concourse route." He yelled, "This airport runs on precision, not pageantry." Already figuring out how many minutes were lost in the 2:30 rush hour. There were 19 departures throughout that time. Delays are costly. Sam stood like a rock against the shiny floors of the arrivals hall. Tourists hurried by, some taking pictures of his eye-catching attire. Others are too busy to take attention. His thoughts strayed to the commanding officer's office from 3 days prior. The letterhead folded. His stomach had dropped at the words. Daniel Walsh, a private first class, was killed in action. Next comes the task. "You've been selected for escort duty, Sergeant. Bring him home." The photo in Sam's breast pocket, soft from years of handling, rubbed across his fingers. Under a desert moon, it depicted him and Danny smiling with their arms wrapped around one another. They were complete opposites who had met in basic training. Danny had a lot of heart and was ready to laugh and take action. Sam was the compass. He was stable and always calculated. The words, "You think too much, Sam," would pierce the darkness as Danny spoke. Over time, their competition evolved into respect and eventually into a brotherhood that was formed in the furnace of war. Sometimes you just feel it. They had been put to the test in Afghanistan. In the barracks, Danny's laughter served both a lifeline and a buffer against the stress. Sam watched and planned in the background. Danny had remarked, "You're my compass, Sam." One calm evening when the stars were shining over their outpost. "I lead the charge, but you make sure we're heading right." Sam had internalized those words, making them a part of who he was. Everything changed on their third tour. A sudden devastating ambush. Fire. Danny's voice shouted. As bullets flew through the air, he tackled Sam to the ground and said, "Sam, on your left." Sam's life was saved in 3 seconds. "Thanks, that's what brothers do." Danny dismissed the medics who were bandaging them that evening. However, there was a new shade in his eyes, a hint of death. After several months, Danny continued to talk about his mother Maggie, who had given him care packages, and his younger sister Emma, who had sent Uncle Danny the hero crayon pictures. As a protection against the night, he kept her artwork in his helmet. Premonition permeated the air as they waited outside their barracks the night before his last assignment. Sam nodded as the weight of the vow set in. "If anything happens," Danny added, his normal smile gone, "bring me home proper. Full honors through the main concourse, not some back exit. Dad would have wanted it done right. I'll make sure of it, Danny. No matter what." The news arrived 3 days later. Danny had not come back. Sparse, classified details were provided. With the picture in his hand and the pledge no longer a hypothetical situation but a responsibility, Sam stood by himself in the barracks. That promise blazed in his chest as the cargo jet taxied closer at the airport. With a mechanical hiss, the airplane door opened, and the honor guard appeared, their actions deliberate and accurate. At stars and stripes, the flag-draped coffin stood out against the gray of the terminal. Heads bent, the ground crew took off their caps. Sam stood next to the coffin. His crimson suit of fire contrasted with the icy efficiency of the surroundings. With the clipboard in his hand like a shield, James Thornton strode into the terminal. He informed his employees, "We'll use the service corridors," as they rushed to the arrivals hall. Sarah, the young security guard, paused before saying, "It's efficient. Won't disrupt thousands of passengers. The military can have their ceremony at the cemetery." Thornton waved her away, saying, "But sir, the director approved the main route. I'm responsible for this terminal. We don't stop for parades." Each step of the march was dignified and measured, defying the hectic speed of the surrounding area. Sensing something precious, travelers slowed. An old man gave a polite nod. Teens muttered among themselves. A businessman paused, taken aback by what he saw, and checked his watch. Sam kept his composure, but he was grounded by the picture in his pocket. This had to do with Danny, and a debt that went beyond timetables. Before the procession arrived at the terminal doors, Thornton came up. "Sergeant," he murmured softly. He opened a map and pointed to a way that was underlined, saying, "I've prepared an alternative route. These service corridors lead directly to the pickup area. It's faster." Sam's reaction was prompt and unflinching. "This is Private First Class Daniel Walsh, United States Army. We will proceed through the main terminal as arranged, at the appropriate pace for escorting the fallen." Thornton's voice was more direct. These corridors were designed for movements that shouldn't disrupt operations. With hardened eyes, Sam repeated, "Shouldn't disrupt." Thornton poked fun of the map, saying, "Private Walsh will be escorted with full honors through the main terminal. There's a service elevator to the loading area. You'd avoid delaying thousands of passengers." Sam stated, "The disruption is temporary," in a firm voice. Thornton's poise broke as he said, "The dishonor of skulking through back corridors would be permanent." He gestured to Sarah. Sarah walked up with her hand on her radio, but her gaze landed on the coffin, the flag reflecting sunlight from a neighboring window, and she said, "This is absurd. Airport protocols supersede your parade." She let her hand fall. She questioned, "Is there a problem?" "Yes," yelled Thornton. Sarah glanced at the coffin and then at the swell of spectators before saying, "We need this procession redirected for operational reasons." "Sir, the director approved this route." Thornton flushed. "I don't see an operational issue justifying a change," he said. "I'm responsible for this terminal. These delays cascade through the system." The crowd had grown. Their quiet was a haven of respect amid the busy terminal. George Miller, an old man wearing a USMC cap, came forward. He stated, "I served in Vietnam." In a gruff but distinct voice, the crowd echoed his statement. "I lost brothers who never came home. This soldier deserves better than a back hallway." A businessman put his phone in his pocket. To her inquisitive child, a mother whispered. Mid-step, a flight attendant halted. Emma gripped Maggie Walsh's hand as she stepped forward. Maggie exclaimed, "My Danny," in a firm yet tremulous voice. As her comments sank in, the terminal became quieter. He loved baseball, dreamed of flying planes. He died saving his squad. He deserves this honor. Unfazed, Thornton moved forward and stopped the procession with a raised hand. "Sergeant, I'm ordering you to redirect." Sam's eyes remained fixed. "There are regulations older than your airport," he stated. Thornton's fingers touched the edge of the flag, causing a ripple to run through the cloth. "They govern how we honor those who gave everything. Lieutenant Walsh died serving his country in full view of the world. He will not be hidden in death." The crowd let out a collective gasp. Time appeared to fall apart. Gently but firmly, Sam's hand closed around Thornton's wrist as he moved with seamless precision. His voice hardly raised above a whisper. "Don't touch the flag," he urged. Nevertheless, it passed through the silent terminal. The statements were based on centuries of military honor and were an uncompromising truth. Thornton's expression changed from amazement to fury. He shouted, "Get your hands off me!" The crowd fell silent as the speaker said, "This is assault. I'll have security escort you out." George Miller took off his hat and put it over his chest. An airline employee dabbed at a tear. A businessman shut down his computer. Thornton failed to see that touching the flag was more than just an error. Danny, his family, and every soldier who had served were all insulted and desecrated by it. With a blank expression on his face, Sam held Thornton's wrist for 3 seconds before letting go. The crowd's veterans were aware of the restraint and the depth of betrayal that was hidden beneath his poise. The dedication of a soldier is symbolized by the flag. Despite the intensity underneath, Sam maintained a steady tone of speech. No one outside the honor guard is allowed to touch the principles they defended or the sacrifice they made. With a spark of defiance, Thornton stroked his wrist. He said, "This is my terminal," in a softer tone. "I determine how military personnel are authorized to protect the flag and casket from desecration." With a last tone, Sam interrupted. The veneration in the crowd increased as he said, "Our actions are guided by protocols older than your position or this airport." As though the terminal had turned into a sacred space, travelers stopped still, many with their heads bent. A little voice said, "That's Danny's flag," from the fringe of the crowd. With her comments cutting through the tension, Emma Walsh, sitting in her grandmother's arms, pointed to the coffin. With a mixture of pride and anguish on her aged face, Maggie embraced her closer. In a wordless recognition of their shared grief, her eyes locked with Sam's. The airport director, Captain Evelyn Carter, a retired Army officer, walked slowly up. She had a military demeanor although wearing a civilian clothing. She took in the sight, the casket at the heart of this unexpected confrontation. Thornton standing awkwardly, the honor guard in formation. Her tones softened as she turned to face Sam. "Mr. Thornton," she continued in a low but forceful voice, "step aside. Sergeant, my apologies. Your procession will continue through the main terminal as planned." With his clipboard in hand, Thornton came to object, but Carter raised a hand to halt him. She recognized what Thornton was unable to, that certain times are more significant than metrics, that customs have significance that cannot be quantified by efficiency reports. Her voice reverberated through the wide room as she took the microphone from the terminal. "Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention? A fallen soldier is being escorted through our terminal today. As a sign of respect, we ask that you join us in forming a corridor of honor for his final journey home." The terminal changed. Those who had been hurrying to the gates halted and walked purposefully to the borders of the concourse. Mid-email, businessmen shut down their laptops. Children were gathered by parents who were muttering about sacrifice. Along the route, airport employees formed lines and abandoned posts. The tumultuous terminal turned into a somber scene. After complaining about delays, a businessman now stood with his head bent. With knowing eyes, a teenage girl put her phone in her pocket. George Miller straightened up, saluting precisely with his hand. With the help of his wife, an old guy in a wheelchair stood up, his shaking hand touching his forehead. With Sam leading the way and the flag shining brightly through the hall of reverence, the procession resumed. No phone was raised, no words were exchanged. As if the building itself held its breath, even the announcement from the terminal appeared to elicit silence. Sam's expression stayed neutral, but there was a new sparkle in his eyes, as he acknowledged that his stand had sparked a strong emotion. He looked across the crowd toward Maggie. No words were exchanged or required. A commitment kept, honor upheld, and sacrifice acknowledged were all evident in one glance. A soldier's acknowledgement from one generation to the next. Maggie gave one nod. The hearse stood outside, its black exterior shining in the midday light. The flag was still bright against the dreary tarmac when the honor guard carefully laid Danny's casket. Emma and Maggie came over, Emma holding one daisy. Despite her advanced age, Maggie's grip on Sam's hand was firm. She said, "You kept your promise, Sam," not letting the tears fall. Sam took the faded picture of him and Danny, laughing under a desert moon, out of his pocket. In her hand, he pressed it. Emma put the flower on the coffin and said, "For you, Maggie." For Emma, she said in a tiny voice, "You're my hero, Danny," breaking the quiet. From a distance, travelers stood in solemn remembrance, while others wiped away their tears. With his head bent, Thornton walked over to his clipboard. He said, "Sergeant, I was wrong," in a voice that was almost audible. "I didn't understand." Sam looked him in the eyes and gave a silent nod of forgiveness. As the hearse withdrew, Danny was taken on his last trip to Arlington. Despite the gravity of the situation, Sam maintained his stance and salute until the car disappeared. What started out as a bureaucratic impasse had evolved into something meaningful, a reminder that some customs exist because they address our need to respect sacrifice. Sam went back to the unidentified soldier's tomb that evening. He paced his watch under a starry sky. 21 steps, a turn, a pause, and then another 21 steps. As a reminder that certain pledges endure, the wind bore the weight of his obligation. Some people pause in a fast-paced society to pay tribute to those who sacrificed all. Let us honor them by having the guts to speak up for what is right, not merely by remaining silent. For Danny, all the soldiers who never returned home, and all those who honor their commitments at all costs, this is the tale of a fallen soldier and a tomb guard at a congested Washington, D.C. airport, of a picture and a pledge that stood the test of time. It serves as a reminder that standing firmly for the honor of the fallen is the best tribute to them at the tomb of the unknown soldier, where every stride is measured and every salute is sacrosanct. So, take a moment today, consider Danny, Sam, and the other heroes whose names we silently bear. Tell their story to honor them, and to remind us all that duty is in the heart that never forgets, not merely in the deed. Additionally, if you happen to be in Arlington, stand in front of the tomb, listen, and observe the guard's steady stride. Perhaps you can hear the heartbeat of a country, resilient and unflinching under the strain of sacrifice.